In the quiet embrace of the misty mountains, where the sky meets the earth in an eternal dance of light and shadow, there lay an ancient monastery known to few but cherished by all who sought wisdom. This monastery, with its time-worn stone walls and weathered wooden doors, was a sanctuary of stillness, a place where the clamor of the outside world yielded to the gentle murmur of prayer and the rustle of leaves in the wind. Within this sacred refuge lived Venerable Ananda, a monk whose presence radiated the serene compassion of 1,000 silent sunsets. His countenance, lined with the soft etchings of a life devoted to mindfulness and altruism, was as calm as the tranquil waters of a hidden mountain lake. Yet, despite his serene appearance, there was one outward mark of imperfection that spoke more powerfully than any polished smile or meditative gaze: his robe, worn and tattered, its edges frayed and torn by years of humble service. Ananda's robe was not a garment of mere fabric, it was a living testament to the impermanence of life and the beauty of letting go. It had once been a fine, unblemished piece of cloth, gifted to him by his master on the day he took his vows. Over time, however, life's many challenges, storms both literal and metaphorical, had reduced the robe to a patchwork of memories. Each tear and fray told a story. Of harsh winters that tested the spirit, of torrential rains that washed away the pride of perfection, and of countless days when the only answer to suffering was found in the gentle art of giving. It was on a dewy morning in early spring, when the first blush of sunrise colored the sky in gentle pinks and golds, that the significance of the torn robe was revealed to a young villager named Aaron. Having grown up in the nearby valley, Aaron's life had been one of simple routines and quiet acceptance. Yet he had long harbored a restless yearning for meaning beyond the boundaries of his familiar world. One day, drawn by an inexplicable pull, he ventured up the winding mountain path that led to the monastery. As Aaron ascended the narrow trail, his heart pounded not with fear but with anticipation. With every step, the world around him grew quieter and more mysterious, as if the earth itself were whispering secrets of compassion and hope. The air was filled with the scent of pine and wet earth, a reminder of the constant cycle of decay and renewal. Soon, the tall gates of the monastery came into view, and Aaron's eyes fell upon the figure of Venerable Ananda seated beneath a sprawling Bodhi tree. The monk's gaze was soft and all-encompassing, as if he could see into the very depths of each soul. Yet what immediately captured Aaron's attention was the robe draped loosely around his slender frame, a garment marked by the passage of time and the burdens of a long, arduous journey. Its torn edges fluttered in the gentle breeze like pages of an ancient manuscript, each rip a silent verse in a poem about life's fragility and resilience. Curiosity, mingled with a deep-seated longing for truth, led Aaron to approach the venerable figure. In the quiet that followed his arrival, the only sounds were the whispering wind and the rhythmic chanting of distant prayers. Aaron knelt before Ananda, not out of subservience, but from an earnest desire to understand the mystery embodied in the worn fabric. With a voice soft as a murmur, he asked, "Master, may I ask the story behind your torn robe?" Ananda's eyes sparkled with the quiet light of compassion as he regarded the young man. In that moment, time seemed to slow, and the boundaries between past and present, teacher and student, dissolved into a single luminous thread. "My dear Aaron," he began, his tone both gentle and resolute, "this robe is more than a garment. It is a chronicle of every trial, every moment of surrender, and every gift of kindness that life has bestowed upon me. Each tear is a lesson, each patch a reminder that true beauty lies not in perfection, but in the willingness to give of oneself, even when we are broken." Thus began the story of the torn robe, a parable of the human condition, where giving is not measured by grand gestures or material wealth, but by the humble, daily acts of compassion that transform sorrow into hope. The venerable monk spoke of a time when he was young, full of ambition and the desire to attain enlightenment through solitary meditation. Yet, as he encountered the suffering of others, he found that wisdom was not acquired in isolation but in the humble act of reaching out and sharing whatever little he possessed. He recounted the day when a fierce storm ravaged a nearby village, leaving its people homeless and despairing. With nothing but his threadbare robe and an open heart, Ananda had set out into the tempest, offering shelter, solace, and a warm meal to those in need. In the midst of that chaos, as the winds howled and the rain fell in torrents, the robe had been torn further, a visible sign of the sacrifices made in the spirit of giving. It is in our moments of vulnerability, he explained, that we discover the strength to love beyond ourselves. Aaron listened intently, his mind and heart absorbing the profound message hidden within the simple fabric of the monk's attire. The idea that imperfections could be transformed into symbols of generosity and resilience resonated deeply with him. In that timeless exchange beneath the ancient Bodhi tree, the young villager felt a stirring within his soul. A realization that the journey to true fulfillment was paved not by accumulating possessions or achievements, but by embracing life's fragility and offering what one could, no matter how small. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting its warm glow upon the monastery grounds, Ananda's words continued to weave a tapestry of meaning around Aaron. He spoke of the Buddhist path, a way of life built on mindfulness, compassion, and the understanding that all beings are interconnected. When we learn to give, the monk said, we also learn to receive. The act of giving opens our hearts and teaches us that every gift, no matter how humble, creates a ripple in the vast ocean of existence. The conversation meandered like a gentle stream, touching on themes of impermanence, the interconnectedness of all life, and the transformative power of selfless compassion. Aaron's initial curiosity had blossomed into a profound reverence for the life lessons the monk imparted. He began to see the torn robe not as a symbol of loss, but as an emblem of resilience and the beauty that emerges when we dare to offer our true selves to the world. In the fading light of that remarkable morning, as shadows lengthened and the day prepared to yield to night, Aaron felt a quiet resolve taking root within him. The teachings of Venerable Ananda had kindled a spark of awareness, a gentle, persistent call to live a life enriched by the spirit of giving. With newfound clarity, he rose from his humble position on the cool stone floor and bowed deeply in gratitude for the lessons he had received. The torn robe, fluttering in the soft evening breeze, now held for Aaron a dual significance. It was a reminder of the monk's humble sacrifices, and it became a beacon for his own journey toward understanding what it truly means to give. In that moment, the boundaries between teacher and student blurred, and the silent communion between souls forged a bond that would guide Aaron along the winding path of compassion and self-discovery. As dusk settled over the monastery, the gentle glow of lanterns illuminated the courtyard, and the echoes of ancient chants drifted through the cool air. Venerable Ananda sat quietly, the torn robe draped over his shoulders like a mantle of lived experience, while Aaron, his heart alight with purpose, began to understand that the greatest gift one can offer is the gift of one's own heart. In that stillness, the world itself seemed to whisper a timeless truth, that in learning to give, we find the essence of life and the secret to everlasting peace. As the first light of dawn bathed the monastery in a gentle golden glow, Aaron stood at the threshold of a new beginning. The teachings of Venerable Ananda and the silent eloquence of the torn robe had kindled within him a spark of longing, a desire to not only understand compassion but to embody it in every facet of his existence. With a heart full of determination and a mind open to the mysteries of life, he bid farewell to the sanctuary of the ancient monastery, stepping onto a winding path that led deep into the valley beyond. Aaron's journey was both physical and spiritual. Along the narrow, rugged trails of the mountain, he encountered landscapes that echoed the impermanence he had learned to embrace. The lofty peaks, swathed in the ephemeral mists of early morning, served as silent sentinels, reminding him that every summit was reached only after a long, arduous climb, a climb fraught with moments of self-doubt, yet also illuminated by sudden insights. Each step forward was a deliberate act of giving trust to the unknown, giving time to reflect, and giving oneself to the service of a greater purpose. One day, as Aaron traversed a lush forest of towering cedars and whispering pines, he came upon a small village grappling with a deep sorrow. The once vibrant community had been struck by a terrible misfortune, a flood that had swept away not only their possessions but also the warmth of hope. Houses were in ruins, and the villagers, their faces etched with despair, moved like shadows through the remnants of their former lives. The sight stirred something deep within Aaron. He recalled the words of the Venerable, who had taught him that true compassion is revealed in the act of sharing what little one has, especially in the face of overwhelming adversity. Without hesitation, Aaron offered his assistance. Though he possessed little in material wealth, his spirit was rich with the teachings of generosity. He gathered what water he could find, helped to rebuild fragile shelters, and most importantly, lent a listening ear and a comforting smile. In the midst of disaster, the villagers discovered that small gestures of kindness could rekindle a collective hope, a hope that transcended the material losses and nurtured the resilient human spirit. It was as if every act of care was a stitch in a fragile tapestry, slowly mending the tears of despair with threads of compassion. During his time in the village, Aaron met Myra, an elderly woman whose gentle wisdom resonated with the rhythm of nature itself. Myra had lost her family long ago and now devoted her days to caring for the orphan children of the village. Despite her own hardships, her eyes sparkled with an unwavering kindness, as if she drew strength from the very act of nurturing life. Over shared meals and quiet evenings under star-filled skies, Myra spoke of the cycles of loss and renewal. Compassion, she explained in a soft, steady voice, is not about what you receive but about the quiet joy that comes from giving unconditionally. It is in every smile shared, every burden lifted, that we see the divine light of humanity. Inspired by Myra's resilience, Aaron began to see his journey in a new light. It was no longer merely a quest for personal enlightenment but a pilgrimage towards a community of souls united by their willingness to give. With each encounter, he discovered that compassion was not a grand gesture reserved for the wise or the mighty. It was a daily practice, woven into the fabric of every moment. From the labor of rebuilding shattered homes to the tender care of comforting a grieving child, every act, however small, was a step towards healing both the giver and the receiver. As the seasons changed, so too did the landscape of Aaron's inner world. He traveled further, venturing into bustling market towns and quiet hamlets alike, always mindful of the interconnectedness of all beings. In every encounter, whether with a jovial merchant sharing tales of his youthful adventures or a weary laborer nursing silent wounds, Aaron discovered echoes of the same timeless truth, that the essence of life is found in the willingness to give and receive love without expectation. In a busy town square filled with the hum of everyday commerce, Aaron's path intersected with that of a renowned storyteller known simply as Dharma. Dharma was a wanderer whose eyes carried the wisdom of many lifetimes, and his words, like ripples on a serene pond, soothed even the most troubled hearts. Over long evenings spent around flickering bonfires, Dharma wove intricate tales of compassion, illustrating how a single act of kindness could alter the course of a life. He recounted legends of heroes who, despite their might, found their greatest strength in humility, of great kings who, burdened by power, discovered liberation in selfless service. Dharma's stories were not just entertainment, they were parables meant to awaken the inner light of every listener, urging them to see that every soul held the capacity to make a difference. One story in particular captivated Aaron. It was the tale of a wandering monk who, much like Venerable Ananda, carried a humble garment marked by the trials of his journey. This monk had roamed from village to village, offering refuge and wisdom to all who crossed his path. In one remote hamlet, the monk had encountered a young mother struggling to care for her sick child. With nothing but his simple robe and a heart brimming with empathy, he had given her the courage to face despair with dignity. His actions had sown the seeds of hope that grew into a mighty forest of gratitude and renewal. Aaron recognized in this story not a distant legend, but the living embodiment of his own calling, the realization that the path of compassion is marked not by accolades but by the quiet, persistent beating of a caring heart. Yet, the journey was not without its challenges. There were moments when Aaron found himself grappling with the harsh realities of the world that often seemed indifferent to suffering. In the solitude of a long, rain-soaked evening, as he sought shelter in a modest inn on the outskirts of a bustling town, doubts began to creep into his mind. He questioned whether his small acts of kindness could truly make a difference against the tide of human sorrow. It was during these moments of introspection, however, that he recalled the lessons etched into the very fabric of his existence, the enduring wisdom of impermanence and the transformative power of giving. One such evening, as the rain tapped softly against the window pane, Aaron sat by a flickering candle and opened his journal, a small, well-worn book in which he had recorded every lesson learned on his journey. In the gentle solitude of that moment, he realized that every tear shed, every hardship endured, was a testament to the human spirit's capacity for rebirth. The challenges he faced were not obstacles to be feared but invitations to deepen his understanding of compassion. With renewed resolve, he resolved to continue his path, trusting that even the smallest spark of kindness could ignite a conflagration of hope in the darkest of nights. In the weeks that followed, Aaron's journey took on a rhythm as natural as the cycles of the moon. He moved from place to place like a gentle breeze, leaving behind traces of warmth and understanding wherever he went. His encounters, whether brief or prolonged, became lessons in humility and gratitude. In the laughter of children playing in sunlit courtyards, in the quiet tears of those who had lost much, and in the whispered prayers of the devout, he saw the countless reflections of a single, immutable truth, that the greatest gift one can offer is not wealth or power, but the compassion that bridges the distance between isolated hearts. As autumn arrived, painting the world in hues of amber and gold, Aaron found himself drawn to a remote hillside village where life seemed to pulse with a quieter, steadier rhythm. There, among the rustling fields of ripened grain and the soft murmur of a nearby stream, he encountered a small community that had long lived in harmony with nature, yet struggled to meet the demands of a changing world. The villagers, though kind and welcoming, were burdened by the weight of scarcity and uncertainty. Moved by their plight, Aaron offered not only his time but also his newfound wisdom. Together with the villagers, he helped to cultivate gardens, repair crumbling wells, and establish communal spaces where knowledge and care could be freely exchanged. In these moments of shared endeavor, Aaron experienced the alchemy of compassion firsthand. He saw how the simple act of working side by side could dissolve differences, transforming strangers into a family bound by the mutual desire to create a better world. The village slowly bloomed with renewed hope, each small success a testament to the power of collective effort and the enduring spirit of giving. Aaron's heart swelled with gratitude as he witnessed the transformation, a transformation that was not wrought by grand declarations or miraculous interventions, but by the quiet, persistent work of ordinary people united in purpose. Every step along Aaron's journey reinforced the profound lesson that had first been revealed to him beneath the ancient Bodhi tree at the monastery, that the act of giving is the very essence of life. Whether through a compassionate word, a humble deed, or simply the willingness to be present for another in their moment of need, every gesture was a reminder that the human heart, when unburdened by the desire for recognition, can become a wellspring of infinite generosity. As the chapter of this leg of his journey drew to a close, Aaron found himself once again standing at a crossroads. With the experiences of the past months etched into his soul like sacred script, he gazed upon the horizon, a vast expanse of possibilities illuminated by the soft light of compassion. In that reflective pause, he understood that his path was far from over. Each act of giving, no matter how small, was a beacon guiding him further along the intricate, winding road of self-discovery and service. In that quiet moment of introspection, the memory of Venerable Ananda and his torn robe shone brightly in Aaron's mind, a symbol not of imperfection or loss, but of the beauty that emerges when we embrace our vulnerabilities and learn to offer ourselves freely to the world, with renewed determination and a heart unafraid of the uncertainties ahead. Aaron stepped forward, ready to meet whatever challenges and joys awaited him on the journey of compassion. In the gentle hush of an early morning, as dew still clung to the leaves and the song of nature was yet a soft murmur, Aaron found himself drawn to a secluded glen deep within the forest. This was a place whispered about by the village elders, a hidden retreat where nature and spirit converged in quiet communion. It was here, among ancient trees whose gnarled roots spoke of centuries past, that Aaron sensed the stirrings of a new kind of awakening. The path to the glen was arduous, marked by uneven terrain and shadowed by the dense canopy above, yet every step forward resonated with a sense of purpose. With each footfall, Aaron felt the burden of his previous doubts lift, replaced by an inner calling to understand not only the external acts of compassion but also the subtle art of healing from within. In that silent solitude, he began to see that the journey was as much about mending the fragments of his own heart as it was about reaching out to mend the lives of others. As the forest opened into a quiet clearing, Aaron encountered an elderly hermit named Siddhartha, who had long chosen the path of solitude to commune with nature and contemplate the mysteries of life. Siddhartha's presence was both enigmatic and reassuring. His weathered face bore the marks of countless seasons, and his eyes shone with the quiet light of one who had witnessed the world's ebbs and flows. Sensing the young traveler's inner turmoil, Siddhartha invited him to sit by a gently flowing stream, where the water's rhythmic cadence served as a metaphor for the eternal cycles of life and renewal. Over the soft gurgle of the stream, Siddhartha began to speak of the importance of embracing one's inner wounds. Aaron, he said in a voice that was both tender and firm, the journey to compassion does not solely lie in acts of kindness to others, but in the courageous act of facing your own pain. Just as the mighty river carves its path through stone over time, so too can the heart, when nurtured with truth and acceptance, transform its own suffering into a wellspring of understanding. In that moment, Aaron's thoughts turned inward. He recalled the myriad encounters that had shaped his journey so far, from the kind eyes of Mara and the soothing tales of Dharma to the silent lessons of Venerable Ananda's Torn Robe. Yet, beneath the surface of these external gifts, lay an unacknowledged sorrow, the grief of past mistakes, the sting of personal loss, and the quiet despair of feeling unworthy of the compassion he so readily extended to others. Siddhartha's words stirred these dormant feelings, inviting Aaron to see that each scar was not a mark of weakness but a testimony to the resilience of his spirit. For days, Aaron remained in the hermit's humble dwelling, a small, moss-covered hut near the stream, immersing himself in deep reflection. The stillness of the glen became a mirror for his soul, revealing the hidden layers of fear, regret, and unfulfilled longing. Through long, meditative walks along the stream's edge and nights spent under a canopy of shimmering stars, he began to confront these shadows. In the quiet moments before dawn, when the world was hushed and vulnerable, he allowed himself to grieve the losses of his past, understanding that every tear was a stepping stone toward wholeness. Siddhartha guided him with gentle wisdom, often reminding him that the act of healing was itself a profound form of giving. When you offer kindness to your own wounded heart, Siddhartha explained, you create the space for deeper compassion to blossom, not only for yourself but for every soul you encounter. As the days turned into a quiet meditation on life, Aaron started to practice this inner generosity. He wrote down his reflections in a small journal, capturing the raw emotions and insights that emerged with each passing sunrise. In those handwritten lines, he found a dialogue between his inner self and the outer world, a conversation that bridged the gap between suffering and solace. The transformative power of these contemplative days soon became evident. In the soft, reflective glow of the forest, Aaron began to see beauty in imperfection. He realized that just as the torn edges of Venerable Ananda's robe told a story of resilience and sacrifice, the fissures in his own heart were the marks of a life lived with courage. Each imperfection was a reminder that to be fully alive was to embrace both joy and sorrow, to acknowledge the pain as well as the possibility of healing. One crisp morning, after a night filled with profound dreams of luminous beings and ancient symbols, Aaron experienced a moment of clarity. As he sat by the stream, watching the sunlight dance upon the rippling water, a gentle breeze stirred the fallen leaves around him. In that ephemeral play of light and shadow, He recognized the inherent beauty of change, how the decay of one season gave way to the vibrant promise of another. It was in this fleeting moment that he understood the true art of giving begins with giving oneself permission to heal, to accept that vulnerability is not a barrier but a gateway to deeper empathy. With this newfound clarity, Aaron resolved to carry forward the lessons of the Glen. He thanked Siddhartha, whose silent smile conveyed both approval and a gentle farewell, and stepped back onto the winding path that would lead him out of the forest. Though he knew the road ahead would continue to challenge him, he now walked with a lighter heart and a resolute spirit. His inner wounds, once sources of pain, had become beacons of light, reminders that every tear shed in solitude was an offering of truth to the vast tapestry of life. As Aaron emerged from the forest's embrace and returned to the bustling rhythm of village life, he carried with him the quiet wisdom of that hidden glen. He realized that every human encounter, every moment of shared silence or laughter, was an opportunity to extend the compassion he had learned in his solitary retreat. The awakening of his heart was not an isolated event but a continuous, unfolding process, a dance between giving and receiving, between the acceptance of imperfection and the celebration of resilience. In the days that followed, Aaron's transformation began to ripple outward. The villagers, who once saw him only as a humble wanderer, now recognized in his gentle demeanor and attentive presence the deep well of compassion he had cultivated. He listened with genuine empathy, offered support without judgment, and shared the quiet stories of his inner journey with those who sought solace in their own struggles. In every exchange, he became a living testament to the truth that healing oneself is the first and most profound act of giving to others. Thus, beneath the ever-changing sky, Aaron's heart blossomed anew, an awakened spirit shining with the gentle light of acceptance, resilience, and unconditional love. And in that gentle light, every soul he touched found a reflection of the same enduring truth, that the journey toward true compassion begins within, and that every act of inner healing sends ripples far beyond the confines of the self. In the soft glow of a waning afternoon, Aaron found himself approaching a bustling town that was unlike any he had encountered on his earlier travels. The town was a tapestry of vibrant colors, lively voices, and a palpable air of striving, a stark contrast to the quiet, reflective spaces of the monastery and forest glen. Yet amid the clamor of daily life, Aaron sensed that every person carried within them a hidden longing for the kind of gentle compassion he had come to understand so deeply. It was in this very town that fate introduced him to Leela, a young woman whose eyes carried the weight of untold sorrows. Leela worked in a modest workshop at the heart of the town, where she dedicated herself to mending broken garments, a task that, in its quiet persistence, mirrored Aaron's own journey of repair and renewal. Her delicate hands, stained with the colors of fabric and life's unpredictable stains, were known to craft not only clothes but also moments of comfort for those who passed through her humble shop. One chilly morning, as a fine mist curled around the cobblestone streets, Aaron entered Leela's workshop seeking shelter from the damp air. The bell above the door tinkled softly as he stepped inside, and he was immediately enveloped by the comforting scent of freshly laundered linen and the warm glow of a small hearth. Leela looked up from her work, and in that brief exchange of glances, Aaron recognized in her eyes the familiar reflection of a wounded heart yearning for solace. Without a word, Leela offered him a seat near the hearth, and over the gentle crackle of burning wood, the two soon fell into a quiet conversation. Aaron shared tales of his travels and the lessons gleaned from encounters with wise souls, stories of torn robes, hidden glens, and the transformative power of self-reflection. Leela, in turn, spoke of the burdens she bore, the grief of lost loved ones, the relentless struggle to mend not only garments but also the frayed edges of her own existence, and the silent hope that someday, her hands might sew together a brighter future. Their conversation meandered like a well-worn path, touching on themes of loss, healing, and the quiet dignity found in everyday acts of kindness. In Leela's gentle yet resilient spirit, Aaron recognized the universal truth that every individual, no matter how burdened, holds within them the capacity to give selflessly. Her craft of mending became a powerful metaphor, each stitch a small act of healing, each repaired tear a testament to the beauty of transformation through care. Moved by her story, Erin offered to help around the workshop. Side by side, they worked with the delicate precision of those who have learned that every act of repair requires not only skill but also a generous heart. As they mended fabrics and listened to each other's silent sorrows, a subtle transformation began to take place. The workshop, once a place marked by the quiet grief of daily hardships, slowly filled with an atmosphere of gentle hope and shared purpose. In the days that followed, Erin and Leela formed an unexpected bond, a companionship born not of necessity, but of a mutual understanding that to give freely is to embrace one's own vulnerabilities. Erin began to see that the true essence of selflessness was not measured by grand gestures, but by the willingness to be present for another's pain, to lend a hand even when one's own heart was bruised. It was in these small, seemingly inconsequential moments, a shared smile, a word of encouragement, the simple act of fixing a tear, that the profound beauty of giving revealed itself. One evening, as twilight draped the town in soft hues of purple and gold, the community gathered in a modest square for an impromptu celebration. The townspeople, inspired by the renewed sense of togetherness that had been kindled by the workshop's quiet transformation, came together to share food, stories, and a collective hope for the future. Erin observed how laughter and warmth began to bridge the gaps between neighbors, knitting a tapestry of shared humanity that was as fragile as it was beautiful. In the midst of the celebration, an elderly man approached Erin with a worn but sincere smile. The man's eyes shone with gratitude as he recalled a time not long past when a kind stranger had offered him a simple meal during a cold, hungry night. That meal, the old man said, his voice trembling with emotion, was not just nourishment for my body, it was a balm for my weary soul. It reminded me that in our darkest hours, the smallest act of kindness can be a beacon of light. Erin listened intently, realizing that this was the culmination of his own journey, the understanding that every act of selfless giving, however modest, ripples outward, touching lives in ways one may never fully comprehend. As the night deepened, Erin found a quiet moment alone beneath a canopy of twinkling stars. The cool air carried whispers of the past, memories of the monastery's serene courtyards, the hushed wisdom of the forest glen, and the echo of Venerable Ananda's timeless words. In that reflective solitude, he understood that his journey was a never-unfolding mosaic of moments. Each act of giving, each encounter with another soul, added a vibrant tile to the larger picture of life's enduring compassion. With the gentle reassurance of the night sky, Erin resolved that his path forward would be one of active service, a commitment to nurture the spirit of giving wherever he roamed. He began to organize small gatherings in the town, encouraging neighbors to share not only their resources but also their stories of struggle and hope. These gatherings became a living testament to the truth that in giving, we receive far more than material wealth. We cultivate a community of hearts that beat in unison, bound together by shared empathy and understanding. In time, Leela's workshop transformed into a vibrant center of communal care. Here, people from all walks of life would come to mend both the torn fabrics of their lives and the wounds that lay hidden beneath the surface. With Erin's gentle guidance, the community discovered that the act of healing was an invitation to experience the divine, an acknowledgement that every soul, when touched by selfless love, becomes an instrument of transformation. As the seasons turned and the town flourished with renewed hope, Erin's own inner journey continued to evolve. He realized that the gift of selflessness was not a finite resource to be exhausted, but an ever-renewing wellspring that grew richer with each act of compassion. The lessons he had learned from the Torn Robe, the silent glen, and the heartfelt encounters with kind strangers all converged into a single, luminous truth, that to truly live is to give, unconditionally and without reservation. And so, beneath the ever-changing sky and amid the vibrant tapestry of life, Aaron embraced his destiny as a quiet catalyst for change. The once solitary wanderer had become a beacon of hope. His every act of kindness a reminder that the journey toward enlightenment is paved with the small, courageous decisions to open one's heart. In every shared moment of tenderness, every selfless deed, the true essence of life, compassion, was celebrated, echoing far beyond the confines of a single town, touching lives and inspiring souls on a universal scale. The early light of dawn found Aaron once more on a familiar path, a narrow trail winding through a forest that had long served as a silent witness to his inner evolution. Each step on this well-trodden road resonated with the echoes of his past, the soft murmur of the monastery's prayer halls, the heartfelt stories shared in humble villages, the reflective whispers of ancient trees, and the enduring presence of those who had taught him the beauty of a life lived for others. Now, he walked with a heart emboldened by years of gentle giving and introspection, ready to embrace the final lessons of his journey. As Aaron advanced along the dew-kissed path, memories of his earlier encounters danced like silhouettes in his mind. He recalled Venerable Ananda's wise words about the torn robe, a garment that bore the imprints of impermanence and the grace found in every sacrifice. He remembered Myra's quiet strength, which had illuminated the hidden corners of sorrow with the promise of healing. And he treasured the heartfelt narratives of Dharma, each story a reminder that every compassionate act was a stepping stone toward the liberation of the soul. In every shared smile, every tender gesture, he had discovered that to give was to receive in ways that transcended the material world. It was on this morning that Aaron arrived at a serene riverside, where the gentle current sang a timeless hymn. There, near a weathered stone bridge, he encountered an old friend, Mitra, a fellow traveler who had once been a wanderer in search of meaning. Mitra's eyes shone with a quiet joy and understanding as he greeted Aaron. "I have watched you travel far and wide," Mitra said, his voice carrying the calm assurance of someone who had also learned life's deepest truths. "Today, you stand at the confluence of all that you have learned. Tell me, what does the path of giving reveal to you now?" Aaron smiled as he settled on a smooth stone beside the river. "Each act of kindness I offered was like a drop of water in this river," he began, "merging together to form a current powerful enough to reshape the banks of our lives. In giving, I discovered that I was not diminishing myself, but expanding into the infinite space of love and compassion. The torn robe of my teacher is no longer a symbol of loss, but a reminder that every imperfection carries the potential to become a conduit for light." Mitra nodded, his gaze fixed on the rippling water. "It is said," he mused, "that the river never clings to its individual drops, yet each one is essential to the whole. So it is with the heart, a heart that learns to give, without expectation, becomes a vessel of boundless grace." In the quiet that followed, the murmuring of the river mingled with the soft rustle of the trees, as if nature itself was affirming the truth of their conversation. As the day advanced, Aaron and Mitra set off together toward a modest hermitage nestled at the edge of a lush meadow. This was a place of reflection, a sanctuary where many seekers had come to rest and renew their spirits. Within its humble walls, Aaron found remnants of his past, faded inscriptions on stone tablets, prayer wheels that spun in a gentle breeze, and a silent courtyard that seemed to hum with the energy of countless heartfelt offerings. Each artifact was a testament to the lives of those who had walked this path before him, each story interwoven into the larger tapestry of compassionate living. In a quiet chamber, lit by the soft glow of a solitary candle, Aaron found himself alone with his thoughts. Here, he opened his well-worn journal, its pages filled with the delicate script of his reflections. He began to write not of his travels, but of the quiet revolution that had taken place within him, a revolution that was not marked by grand declarations, but by the gentle unfolding of awareness. He wrote of the courage to face his own vulnerabilities, the wisdom in accepting the transient nature of life, and the immense power that lay in every simple act of giving. In these written words, Aaron captured the essence of a truth that transcended time and space, that the journey toward enlightenment is a continuous embrace of both joy and sorrow, light and shadow. That evening, as dusk painted the sky in hues of lavender and amber, Kieran was invited to a small gathering at the hermitage. Friends and fellow seekers had come together to share their own stories, narratives of hope, resilience, and the tender art of giving. Under a starlit sky, they sat in a circle, each voice a note in the symphony of their shared humanity. One by one, they recounted moments of quiet triumph and moments of deep vulnerability. In the soft cadence of their voices, Kieran recognized the common thread that united them, a deep, abiding belief that every act of kindness rippled outward, touching lives in ways both seen and unseen. In that communal embrace, Kieran felt a profound sense of interconnectedness. The luminous faces around him were not strangers, but reflections of his own spirit, a spirit that had grown richer with every compassionate encounter. He listened intently as an elderly woman recounted how a simple gesture of care had revived her hope in a time of despair. A young man shared how the warmth of a stranger's smile had helped him overcome a season of loneliness. With each story, the collective heartbeat of the group seemed to grow stronger, weaving together a tapestry of love that spanned the distance between souls. As the night deepened, Kieran's thoughts turned to the final lesson of his journey, the realization that the path of giving is, in essence, the path of becoming. It is a journey that never truly ends, for every day offers a new opportunity to extend one's hand, to open one's heart, and to discover the beauty of selfless love. In that moment, he understood that the torn robe, once a symbol of imperfection, had evolved into an emblem of a life lived with courage and compassion. It was a testament to the truth that every scar, every wrinkle of sorrow, and every tear shed in silence had contributed to the luminous mosaic of his being. Standing beneath the vast, starlit sky, Kieran felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the lessons learned, the hearts touched, and the endless capacity for love that resided within him. The journey had taught him that giving is not merely an action, but a state of being. It is a continuous process of opening oneself to the transformative power of empathy, of recognizing that every moment is an opportunity to be of service to others and to oneself. In the soft embrace of that final night, Kieran made a quiet vow to carry the spirit of giving in every step he took, to honor the interconnectedness of all beings, and to let the wisdom of his experiences guide him in every future encounter. The final embrace of the spirit, he realized, was not a destination but a constant unfolding, a daily renewal of the commitment to live with an open heart. As the candle flickered low and the gathering slowly dispersed into the serene night, Kieran lingered a moment longer in silent reflection. He gazed upward at the infinite expanse of stars and felt the gentle assurance of the universe whispering its timeless secret, that in giving, we transcend the boundaries of our own existence and become part of a greater, eternal symphony of love. In that final embrace, Kieran recognized that his journey was not defined by the distance traveled or the hardships endured, but by the simple, profound truth that every act of giving transforms both the giver and the receiver. It is a truth as old as time, a truth that, like the rippling current of a river, carries each of us along the path toward an ever-deepening understanding of what it means to live, to love, and to be truly free. Thus, as the night gave way to the tender blush of a new dawn, Kieran stepped forward with a heart alight with hope, ready to share the enduring gift of compassion with every soul he encountered. The final embrace of the Spirit was his, a luminous testament to a life devoted to the art of giving, and a reminder that in every gentle act of kindness, we find the seeds of everlasting peace.